In India, 4 states, Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Odisha conduct simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. यानी कि मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट और मेंबर ऑफ स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली को इलेक्ट करने के लिए चुनाव एक साथ कंडक्ट किया जाता है. A voter goes into a polling booth to vote in 2 different elections via 2 separate EVM units. Now, is it possible that in these states a voter goes into a booth and their vote gets polled in only one of the 2 elections? Seems unlikely, right? Hi, my name is Himanshi. I'm a journalist with the Quint and I spent the last few days analyzing the detailed results for the 2024 elections published by the Election Commission of India on 24th December. What I found was that in Odisha, Andhra Pradesh and Sikkim, there was a mismatch of 81,916 votes polled in Lok Sabha and Assembly elections of these states. To put it simply, this means that 81,916 people in constituencies across these states voted in only one of the 2 elections, despite both being held simultaneously at the same polling booths. Of these, 63,389 were EVM votes, while 18,527 votes were polled using postal ballots. एक एग्जाम्पल से समझते हैं. In Andhra Pradesh's Hindupur Lok Sabha constituency, which has 7 assembly segments, 13,96,687 EVM votes were polled in Lok Sabha elections, while 14,01,362 total EVM votes were polled in assembly constituencies. This means that 4,675 more EVM votes were polled in the assembly election as compared to Lok Sabha. Similarly, in Odisha's Dhenkanal Lok Sabha, 4,056 more EVM votes were polled in elections to its 7 constituent assembly segments as compared to the corresponding parliamentary seat. Now, how did this happen? We'll get to that, but usse pehle, let's understand simultaneous election exactly hota kaise hai. Basically, every polling booth has one presiding officer. Let's think of him as the booth in charge. And under him are 5 polling officers. A voter enters the polling booth and goes to the first polling officer, who is in charge of the marked copy of the electoral roll and is responsible for identification of the voters. The second polling officer makes the entries in the register of voters, also called Form 17A, takes the signature of the voters or the thumb impression and applies indelible ink on the left forefinger of the voter. Then, the third polling officer issues voter slip to the voters, indicating the serial number in which they would be going into the voting compartment to cast their vote. White slips are issued for Lok Sabha and pink slips are issued for the Vidhan Sabha elections. The voter then proceeds to the 4th polling officer. He collects the white voter slip and initiates the process for the voter to vote in the Lok Sabha election. The voter then enters the voting compartment for the Lok Sabha to cast their vote and then proceeds to the 5th polling officer, who is in charge of the EVM control unit for the assembly election. The officer collects the pink slip from the voter and guides them to the voting compartment for the assembly election. जब ये सब हो जाता है, that is when a person exits the booth. Now, the EC guidelines also mandate कि जो 4th और 5th polling officers हैं, they should on an hourly basis tally the total number of votes polled in Lok Sabha and assembly elections. And if there are any discrepancies, they should be duly noted in Form 17C. Now, the question here is, despite such an elaborate but simple procedure, how do these discrepancies in data arise and what do they actually mean? To find out, we wrote to the Election Commission but did not receive any response till the time of recording this video. I also spoke to the former Chief Election Commissioner of India, Mr. O.P. Rawat, who explained, and I quote, "These discrepancies do not arise very often and are not big enough to influence the result of an election. There are always some individuals who do not wish to exercise their franchise in a particular election. They walk into the booth and vote only in one election, usually the one to elect members to the State General Assembly, because that election is more localized." Amar Patnaik, former Rajya Sabha MP and the national spokesperson of Odisha's Biju Janata Dal, however, felt differently. He said, and I quote, "The EC must ensure transparency and explain this vote loss. After the elections in Odisha, the poll body did not release separate voter turnouts for the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha elections. At the polling booths, there is only one register of voters. How is it then possible that the votes polled in Assembly and Lok Sabha elections do not match with each other? Patnaik's party also raised this issue with the poll body but hasn't received any response so far. Over the years, the Quint has been dedicated in its coverage of India's democratic institutions, be it our investigations into electoral bonds or our deep dive into the mismatch in polling data. These stories, however, not only require resources but also editorial independence, which comes at a great cost. We need your help to survive. So head to the Quint's website, become a member and support our journalism.